Here's a scenario for you. You wake up in the morning ready to conquer the day, ready to have an amazingly productive day, ready to kill it. You go to school, university, work, wherever it is you go. You come back and remember the promise you'd made to yourself that very morning. You sit down to honor it. You try for 5, 10, 15 minutes, even, let's say, but for some reason you're just not able to get started. You're just not feeling it today. It's just not your day. So what do? You take the L, grab your phone, and spend the entire rest of the day on it. Here's a question for you. How many times has this happened with you? Actually, let me rephrase that. We humans, we're notoriously bad at remembering these tiny mistakes we make day after day. So I ask you, over the past 2 weeks, how many times has this exact thing happened with you? I don't think you understand the extent to which this one mistake can have an effect on you in the long term. But don't worry, that is exactly what I am here for today. So let's begin. You're not even setting the right goals for yourself in the first place. So, of course, you're not making good progress. Let me explain. Here's two scenarios for you. Don't worry, I'm going to make this one quick. Scenario A, you grab your phone as soon as you wake up in the morning, start consuming content, start scrolling through your phone for the next 2 hours. But 2 hours in, you somehow get yourself to put your phone down and you go and have an amazingly productive rest of the day. Sounds good, doesn't it? Scenario B, you wake up in the morning and you can feel yourself really wanting to pick your phone up. Your phone is right there by your bedside and there's nothing you want more than to pick that phone up and start scrolling, but you somehow keep yourself from it. You resist that temptation. You can feel your body craving its daily dose of dopamine, but you somehow resist it. You somehow keep yourself from picking your phone up. Throughout the day, you feel the cravings, but throughout the day you resist them. In this process, however, you're also not able to do anything productive. So you spend the entire day not doing anything productive, not doing anything good with your time, but also keeping yourself away from your phone. Now, which scenario do you think is the better one over here? You really want to say scenario A, don't you? I think that's probably even your goal. You want to spend a few hours scrolling through your phone. You want to spend a couple of hours giving yourself the dopamine, but you also want to have a productive day. You also want to have a good day. Let me tell you why this is not the way to go about it. In absolute terms, of course, scenario A is by far the better one because you're getting more output from it. You're getting more productive hours at the end of it. But let's now look at this from a zoomed out perspective. Let's now look at the same very two scenarios from a long-term perspective. Let's begin with A. Here's a quick crash course on how your dopaminergic system works. You see, the more you derive dopamine from indulging in a particular activity, the lesser that very activity spikes your dopamine. So you'll have to partake in that activity for longer and longer periods of time in order to get the same spike of dopamine. Let's say hypothetically that you just installed a social media app. Let's say you just installed Instagram for the first time in your life on your phone today. You spend an hour on the platform and you'll get a huge dopamine spike from it. After which you put your phone aside and go about the rest of your day productively. You go about the rest of your day getting things done. Sounds good so far, doesn't it? Sounds like the dream. But let's look at how this plays out. Do the same for a few months and it will take you multiple hours of sitting on Instagram to get the same dopamine spike. Do it for a few years, and the slight increase in dopamine that you'll get out of spending entire days on social media won't even be comparable to the spike that you initially got from spending 1 hour on it. You see, this does not have a long term scope. This is the only way it can play out in the long term. Let's now see how B turns out in the long term. Let me quickly remind you what B was. B was the scenario where you spent your entire day away from your phone, but you also didn't get anything done. You also had zero output at the end of the day. Let's now see how this turns out. Do this for a couple of weeks to a month maximum, and you'll rid yourself of your internet addiction. So number one, you get all of these extra free hours in the day now. These hours that were previously being allocated to sitting and consuming content. Number two, you have all of this free mental space now that was previously being spending entire days thinking about the content that you'd consumed while you were on your phone. And number three, a month in, you will also have reset your baseline dopamine levels, which means that even things like reading, meditating, journaling, spending time with your family, these things will start feeling so much more fun, so much more enjoyable than they ever did before. Finally, and this is just the icing on the cake, how long are you not going to be productive for? Let me list out the reasons you're not productive today. Number one, all of your free time goes into consuming content, so you have no free time left. Number two, all of your mental energy goes into thinking about the content you consumed, so you have no mental energy left. Number three, you have severely desensitized your dopaminergic system, so regular everyday things don't feel fun anymore. You need strong, hardcore stimulus in order for you just to feel normal. So how are you going to derive any satisfaction out of things like studying, things like working, things like reading? And what have we done with our 1 month detox? We have completely wiped out each of these three factors. Let me give you a quick analogy that should clear all of this out in a second. Let's say we have Andrew. Andrew wakes up and grabs his booze first thing in the morning, gets drunk. But as soon as he starts to sober up, he goes and spends the entire rest of the day productively. He has an amazing day, gets a lot of shit done, spends the entire day productively. Scenario B, as soon as he wakes up, Andrew can feel his entire body pushing him to go and grab the bottle and take a big gulp, because that's what he's done every single day. But somehow he keeps himself from partaking today. Somehow he resists, somehow he keeps himself from listening to that part of his mind asking him to do this. He spends his entire day resisting, entire day having an inner battle with himself, and in the process he is also not able to be productive. He is not able to get anything done throughout the day. Now, which would you say is the better scenario? The previous scenario A and B that I gave you versus this scenario A and B, they're both the exact same thing. The only difference is that one of these drugs is a socially accepted, a very common drug that everyone partakes in, that everyone is addicted to. But alcoholism, not so much. In conclusion, start measuring your progress, start evaluating your growth by tracking how little time you allow yourself to indulge in this drug called social media. As time goes on, this drug is only going to become more and more prevalent, more and more ingrained in our societies. And it's only those of us who are able to grab a hold, who are able to take control of this addiction, who will rule the world in the coming years. Ingrain this concept in your brain that every second you spend away from your phone is progress. Stop evaluating how a day went by tracking how many hours you were able to spend productively. Rather, evaluate how a day went by tracking how little hours you spent indulging in social media. As long as you keep improving upon this new measure, I promise you, you'll see your productivity skyrocket. As always, I wish you all the best with everything, and I'll see you in the next one.